Robben Island, Mandela was not bitter when he came out of prison. And if you look at Mandela became president in South Africa for 5 years. We don't see any kind of development that Mandela did in South Africa. He didn't build roads. He didn't even build hospital. But why is it that Mandela became an icon in South Africa? It is because of forgiveness. It's because of the patriotism that was in him. It's because despite the fact that the people that were ruling South Africa at that time really took them through slavery. But when Mandela came out, the message that he was preaching was a message of reconciliation, a message of forgiveness, a message of patriotism. And so Mandela forgave his enemies or the people that took him to prison. And that's why, even as we talk today, Mandela is still a name to be reckoned with. So I can tell you, Kenyans and all the viewers, that we have a nation to preserve for our future generation, our children, and our children's children. I think I'll stop at that.
Wow.
Yes.
And on patriotism,
yes.
I remembered a quote by the late Professor George Saitoti, and he said that there comes a time
yes.
when a nation is bigger than an individual.
True.
There are some of the aspirants who have conceded defeat
yes.
even before the winners and the losers have been declared.
Yes.
And there are some who have gone ahead to challenge the results even before the official results have been communicated.
Yes.
What do you make of that?
Yes, first I want to thank God and also congratulate the losers that have conceded defeat, because that's a sign of patriotism. It's a sign that, because by the time somebody is engaging himself in an election, he knows that there'll be a loser and there'll be a winner. There's no road between. There's nothing between. It's either you lose or you win. And so when somebody accepts defeat or concede defeat, that's a good sign of somebody who is practicing patriotism, because he's saying, after all, I've lost, yes, but they still have to continue. This life is not all about me. It's about the other people. Life is not only about you. It's also about your neighbor. It's also about your next, your children and your children's children. So when you concede defeat, that shows that you are patriotic. The people that are refusing to concede this and they want to challenge, there are two ways I can look at it. One, you might challenge because you have evidence that this thing maybe was not done in the right way, and that is your constitutional right. You can be able to challenge. But secondly, sometimes you can challenge that just for the sake of challenging, because you are looking at yourself. You just want to look at yourself, which I can call, and you forgive me for this, that is selfishness. Because you are just considering you, your people, and whoever you want to lead. Because a leader, by any chance, is the people. In a democratic society, it's the people that select or choose their leaders. So if they didn't choose you, and you find that actually your competitor is ahead of you, the wise thing is to concede defeat. Yes.
On reconciliation.
Yes.
Reconcile one to another.
Yes.
Do you think politics make us irrational?
True. It sometimes makes us irrational. And the thing that makes us irrational, we look unto ourselves too much. We become almost like selfish. Because the people that you want to lead, if they have refused you or have rejected you for that matter, then why do you have to force yourself onto them? Because when you go there, you are supposed to be a servant. You are supposed to have what we call a servant leadership spirit. You want to serve these people. If you want to serve me, but I've said, no, I don't want you to serve me, why do you force yourself to me, onto me? I've refused that. I don't want you to serve me. Because as a leader, you are not supposed to be there to rule the people. You are supposed to be there to serve the people. And politics is about service. It's not about rulership. So if people do not look at it from that perspective, that I'm going to serve the people. When Jesus Christ came here on earth, he came as a servant. And that's why he was born in a manger, to show people that he actually came to serve mankind. He didn't come to rule, despite the fact that he was a king. And actually not just a king of kings. So when he came, he showed us a very good example that we as people should be servants, not rulers. And so what I would say that when we look at politics as being servants, then we'll be able to be more sober than irrational. Yeah.
On forgiveness,
Yes.
there is forgiveness of self.
Yes.
Maybe those that didn't make it, and they are like, maybe I didn't do this, maybe I could have done this,
Yes.
maybe I should have done this better,
Yes.
I should have used this strategy.
Yes.
There are those that are maybe in that state, and there's also maybe blame game in the political parties and the teams that they appointed.
Yes.
How does everyone come to a place of forgiveness, or forgiving someone else and forgiving themselves?
True, Lucy. I like the way you're putting it, because forgiveness starts with yourself. You cannot forgive if you have not forgiven yourself. And as I said earlier, when you are engaging yourself in an electoral process, one thing that you must know that should be at the back of your mind is that there is losing and there is winning. You know that either of the two can take place. And so when it comes to issues of forgiveness, first you must forgive yourself. Whether you did some mistakes or there are some things, because life is a learning curve. We learn on a daily basis. You might have made a mistake. There are people who have tried several times and then finally they get it. There are people who never get it at all. There are people who tried the first time and they get it. So it is a learning process. So when you forgive yourself and know that that was a lesson learned, and you check on where you went wrong, maybe next time you might win. And so that's why I say that you start by forgiving yourself, and then you go and forgive your neighbors and your friends. Because the Bible also says that if you cannot forgive your neighbor, then God himself cannot forgive you. Because first you must know that you are forgiven. You are a product of forgiveness. If you were not forgiven, maybe you wouldn't have been even alive right now. But because God forgave you, he pardoned you from all the things that were done, then you have no right not to forgive one another. Yes.
And there are aspirants, not even there are, every aspirant that had gone into this race has definitely invested a lot, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially.
Yes.
There are some that even, they left their jobs, others borrowed from banks to finance their campaigns, and they have lost. So here's someone who has been left in debt, someone who has been left jobless, and they left their job, and maybe they didn't have anything else they were doing on the side. How do you move from that?
Before even I come to how do you move from that position, as I said earlier, when you are entering, the moment that you had decided that you vie, most people would tell you that it is the electorate or his constituency or his people who have told him that he is the right leaders for them. And so it's very important that, because to me, vying for this political position is taking a risk. And when you are taking a risk, there's what we call a calculated risk. So I believe that when you are taking that calculated risk, you should have looked at both sides of the divide. You look at when you win, then what happens? When you lose, then what happens? Because if you don't do that, then you find yourself in the question that now you are asking. Because you didn't calculate that there would be these two sides of the coin that might take place, either the winning or the losing. And so when you lose and you find yourself in such a scenario, as Christians, the best way is to look unto God. Go back to God. If you didn't hear him clearly when you are starting the journey, then God is a God of mercy. He's a God who knows us. He's our creator. Because the only way that you can be able to solve this is to go back to God for direction. Because God can be able to guide you. Now that you have lost my child, this is what you can do. But what I would advise is that before you engage yourself in this, it is good to be able to take a calculated risk. By a calculated risk, I mean you must have weighed the pros and the cons by the time you are going into the election. You know very well that chances are very high that you will win, and also chances are very high that you may lose. So the probability here is 50-50. We are talking of a probability of 50-50. So you should be ready for any side of the divide. And so I would say that you lost everything, but then the Bible says that a righteous man falls 7 times, and 7 times shall he rise up again. So that is not the end. There must be a way out. Go back to God, and God will be able to guide you. How do you rise up? And then what are you able to do? Because that's not the end of life. Yes.
No, there's something about a winning mentality.
Yes.
And a winning mentality is really difficult to challenge.
True.
A winning mentality is, I will get whatever I want
Through
at all costs.
Yes.
You know, it's either I win or I win.
Yes.
It's either there are those that maybe have options. There
Yes.
are those who had calculated the risks.
Yes.
There are those who had weighed the pros
Yes.
and cons. But now there is this strong personality that was all in. I am winning this thing. And now they have lost. And
Yes.
their ambitions have been frustrated.
That's a very good question. You see, in life, life has principles. And there are some principles of life that you cannot go against.
Okay.
Just the same way like the law of what they call it, the Newton laws. When I take this thing and throw it up, it is a must that it must come down. That is a law that you cannot change.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a law. It's a law of life. And so in life also the issue of winning and losing is a law. You cannot say that you only know of winning. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And even in our Christian faith, we know that we say that we walk by faith. Yes, but faith has some things that back the faith. Because faith is backed by hope, and faith is also backed by knowledge. You cannot just say you have faith that is not backed by anything. Faith must be backed. And so when you have that winning mentality and say that it has to be a win and nothing else, then you are like trying to go against the laws of life, which is not possible. Because they say, where there's smoke, there must be fire. Where will smoke come from if there is no fire? And anything that goes up must come down. These are laws of life that you cannot go against. So I would advise that the people that feel that if it's a win, it has to be a win, they have to really reconsider their stand. Because life is not like that. Life, there are times that you'll win, and there are times that you'll lose. But you see, why did God put the losing aspect? The losing aspect is good because it is a learning curve. Because if you don't lose, you cannot learn. It's after losing that people learn. And it's after losing that you get very many sides of the thing that you didn't understand. If it's a practical thing that you are doing and it didn't work, that means you have lost it. Then that's when you come to a sense of that maybe I have to approach this thing in a different way. So losing, to me, it's learning. So when you lose, you are learning. When you win, you also continue learning. Because life is learning from the day you are born to the day you go to the grave. You keep on learning. And so if you look at it from the perspective of learning, then it becomes something that can be able to help you. Yes.
And we also have expectations as the people that went to the ballot.
Yes.
You know, and everyone, of course, they voted because they believed and trusted that their candidate is going to win.
True.
So what if my candidate is not announced as the winner?
Yes, so expectation is good. Actually, the Bible says that the expectation of the righteous are not cut off. But the expectation, when you have an expectation that your candidate is going to win and he doesn't win, then your expectation maybe is not met, then you have to be very flexible in such a situation. Because sometimes God does not follow a straight path. And one thing that you must also know, the Bible says that his ways are not our ways, and his thoughts are much higher than our thoughts. So sometimes he must pass you through a losing curve for you to win later. And that's why when the children of Israel were being delivered from Egypt, God passed with them through a long route. And this long route had so many connotations. Number one, he wanted them maybe to learn some things in the desert, to learn to fight, to learn to do many things. Because the land that they were going to inherit had giants. And the giants were there waiting for them. If they would just go straight from Egypt to Canaan, maybe they would not have learned some tactics, some war tactics. Maybe God would want them, maybe they learn those tactics, so that by the time they enter the promised land and they face the giants, then they could be able to win easily. So sometimes losing might not be looked at losing per se, but it could be a winning, in other words. So after some time, it could be a win. Because after you have lost, that means you are going to change strategy, you are going to change the way you look at things, you are going to do things maybe in a very much different way. And at the end of the day, when you go back, you win. But it's only because we are anxious, we want things, microwave things, and we want things very fast.
Go away.
So we want it there and then. And this is what I would tell the losers that, or the people that are watching, that if your candidate didn't win, maybe it's a curve that this candidate has to pass through so that he wins next time.
Okay.
Yes.
We're going for a short break.
Yes.
Before we go for the break, we're really learning a lot, and we're talking about what next after election, and how, and that will be how do we preserve this nation after elections with patriotism, reconciling one to another, forgiveness, and we just want you to practice these things even as we wait for the results, which are going to be, we have a few days left. Just keep calm, just keep trusting in the Lord. We're going for a short break. Do not go anywhere. We're going to be right back shortly.